Man, thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right. So we'll get into just a little bit of uh, demographics here, I guess, real quick, before we get into why mailers can help build your business and keep it going for years to come. So, where do agents get their listings from? And this is based off of NAR data. And yes, a lot of it does come from SOI, your sphere of influence, and that is some of the best way to, have your business, especially long term. But if you're newer in the business, or maybe you were out of the business for a little while, need to get back in the business, maybe you don't quite have that available at the moment. So you need to start building your book again. So home selling and real estate professionals. So 65% of sellers found their agent through a referral or friend, neighbor. 81% of recent sellers contacted only one agent before finding the right agent they worked with to sell their home. And I have that one highlighted because that that statistic right there is why mailers can be so successful for you if you're doing them properly, because you could be that first agent, when they're like, hey, this month we want to get our home on the market next month. This month we're contacting somebody, and all of a sudden a flyer lands in their mailbox, right? So it's a lot about timing, but I'll show you how to kind of overcome that a little bit. But 81% of them list with they only talk to one agent before they list their home. That's a high number. 46% of sellers use the same agent to purchase a home to sell their home. That's a pretty low number, actually, 46%. That just shows that we are pretty terrible at keeping in contact with our past clients. Um, 85% of sellers use an agent who provided a broad range of services and management of most aspects of the home sale. 75% of sellers reported that they provided the agent's compensation. And the typical seller has recommended their agent once since selling their home. 20% of sellers recommended their agent four or more times since selling their home. So, what do you do if you don't have a large sphere of influence yet? Or where maybe you've relocated and you haven't really sold any homes in your new area. So what do you do? And that's where that data point comes in. If 81% of sellers working with the first agent they contact, or basically has reached out to them in some way. So those are good odds if you're sending out marketing pieces that resonate with homeowners who are thinking about selling. Um, and this is where you can start building your sphere of influence, your database, your positive reviews, and your experience. If you want this, uh, presentation, this link right here goes over to home buyer and seller profiles provided by NAR, which is where I got some of this data. So use available data to target the right homeowners at the right time. This is a huge cost-cutting technique when it comes to mailers. So when I started in real estate well, I guess about 6 months in, I started doing mailers because that's what my team leader did. He said, you got to send out mailers. Great. So basically, I just duplicated his and started sending them out. And I started small. We didn't have the data that we do now at our fingertips back then. This is back in like '04 when I kind of started doing mailers. And I would just send out like 5,000 pieces. And yes, it was expensive. It was expensive then, and postage was much cheaper. Um, but it was very, very consistent. If I sent out 5,000 mailers to a zip code, and this was me picking a zip code to kind of dig down into, I said, okay, I live in this area, not a lot of people marketing over here. I'm going to pick this area zip code and just go for it. And, with 5,000 mailers, I would get 3 to 4 listings typically on that drop. And each time I would go to a new drop, I would increase it. And by the time I kind of stopped doing mailers, I was sending out about 15,000 pieces to multiple zip codes all in the same area. And it was kind of nuts. I would take 12 or 13 listings in about a 30-day period when I would drop that many mailers. The first week, I'd go on 2 or 3 listing appointments a day sometimes. It was It was actually pretty nuts. But it's very consistent, so I knew that if I did this, I would get business. And basically, from the cost, back then, I had to sell like my first two homes kind of were, on like that one was just paying for the marketing essentially that I just spent out. Um, so we can do it much cheaper these days, much more targeted because we have so much more data now, and it can be so much more cost effective, and you can make it fit your budget, and you can really start drilling down into the neighborhoods, some neighborhoods that you like. It's not always going to be your favorite neighborhood, but you can start getting into some areas that you like, and I'll show you how that works. So let's look at the homeowner tenure statistics real quick. So the median in California's top 30 cities, single family homes, people stay a median of 4.7 years, which is not really that long in my opinion. Condos a little longer, 2 to 4s, about the same. Um, by square footage. So if you're breaking down data by square footage, someone's that's in a home of less than 500 square feet, they're going to be there about 4.5 years. 5 to 1,000, five. Basically, all these numbers are about five. So square footage isn't necessarily a factor here. Um, Aside from looking at something that is, a little bit smaller square footage, they are probably going to move a little faster. By home age, if they're in a home um, that is 5 years or newer, they're there about 2.1 years. 6 to 10 years, five, and again, we're in the fives here for the age. So aside from new construction, um, they're really not, that doesn't seem to be a huge factor as well. Cities with the shortest homeowner tenure, Elk Grove, Sacramento, Fresno. So we've got some kind of quick turnarounds here. We get into some Southern Cal areas, and we start getting into, 4.5 to about 5 years on average. People stay in the home that they bought. Cities with the longest homeowner tenure. Um, Quite a few stuff up north. And then we have, again, we get down into the fives again, about 5 years. So looking at the data, yeah, it's about 5 years on average, I would say, that people are living in their homes. So this is data that you want to keep in the back of your head because that's how you filter down your mailing list when you're creating that. So you're going to choose your farm area based on data and not based off of emotion, which tends to happen a lot. Someone is like, hey, I want to start marketing. I want to start marketing my neighborhood. I want to be, I don't like it when a home lists in my neighborhood and I'm not the listing agent. That really bothers me or this and that. But I said, okay, well, how many homes sell in your neighborhood every year? Oh, maybe like two or three, maybe. Well, that's not very good odds if you're going to be sending mailers out every month to your own neighborhood. Um, you're going to send out a lot of mailers because people aren't moving from your neighborhood very much. So you have to leave the emotion out. Think of this as, as your business. How are you going to grow your business? And you may need to start in some neighborhoods that are not your favorite, but still in, an area that's nearby that you want to start kind of ingraining down into. So um, you can do this simply with an MLS search. Um, I'm gonna go. So I'm in just CRMLS right now. Hopefully you can see it, and you can do this in any MLS that you want. Just go over. You're gonna pull up active. Well, basically coming soon, active, pendings, and closed. And what we want to look at is actually 360 days. So we want a full year of um, looking down into an area. What's happening? What neighborhoods are moving? What neighborhoods are not? Um, I guess we can go ahead and let's see. Where's the? I don't usually use this one. I use Paragon a lot. Um, We can probably straight up go to the map search from here, I think. Just with that criteria. So it's going to start popping in some neighborhoods. Let's give it a sec. It's probably too big for it. So you want to start looking at some of the big numbers here. Obviously, we get coastal, and we have, some smaller numbers popping in. Here's one with a 130. So we start pulling in neighborhoods, like this right here, this region here. And what I like to do is, I mean, you can do a polygon. Oops, sorry about that. Let's delete that. You can do a polygon, you can do a radius, whatever you want to do here. I actually personally like the polygon because I would want to probably draw around a neighborhood. So even just going out less than half a mile here, we got a lot of sales going on in this particular neighborhood. Um, Looks like we have about 30. So yeah, 30 matches in that half-mile radius. So that is more than double, almost triple what you would be looking for in a farm area. We want to look at a farm area that has um, at least 12 transactions happening um, every year. So that's why I like to still count the actives and the pendings because I want to know how many are actually going for the whole year. So if I shrunk this down even more, I'd probably get down into this neighborhood. And this neighborhood has a lot of sales going on, and this would be something that I would target, because the chances that my mailer is going to land in someone's mailbox that month that wants to sell a home are pretty good. Probably two or three people are looking to sell in this particular neighborhood that particular month because we saw the numbers. There's 30 sales that have happened in here or are ongoing right now. So we want to choose a neighborhood like this. If you choose one that has very little numbers, 5 or 6, then you're going to spend more money on mailers than you're going to get on return, or your return on investments could definitely be a little lower than what you are expecting to get out of the mailer. So that's as simple as it gets when you're looking around. If you're like, okay, I'm in, this particular zip code, let's find the neighborhoods that are moving right now, or that are generally always moving. So, so finding, 400 home search area, active pending sold in the last 12 months must equal 12 or more sales. And that is a minimum for me. That's kind of borderline. Um, but I know some areas don't move as fast as others. So if you can find something where 12 real estate transactions are happening on a yearly basis on average, then I would say that would be a candidate for your mailer. You can look into Realist to refine your farm search. So if you have never got into Realist, um, I suggest going in there because it's got a lot of data in there for you. What you can do is take that same radius and you can go into Realist. So let's go. Yep, sorry about that. You go over to Realist. Hopefully you can see my screen here getting into Realist. Um, you go over to the search. And you can do the same thing over here with their tools. Radius tool, you can go ahead and draw your same radius, which is, I made that way too big. I'm zoomed out pretty far. I'm just showing that you can still draw here in Realist, and you can extract actually a mailing list out of Realist if you like. You can uh, filter this down on recording date, and you can put it in here that somebody bought this home 5 years ago or longer. And then now you're taking the amount of homes that are going to be in that circle, and it's going to go from whatever, 1,000, and then it's going to shrink down to, okay, well, now it's only 500 or 600 people. And this is depending on how big your farm area is. That's why you want to start with probably, if your budget is going to be around $150 a month for mailers, then you're probably going to want, 300 or 400 homes to get down to that mailing list number that you want that's going to be budget friendly for you. So play around with it and find the area and filter out basically 5 years or longer if it's an older neighborhood. If it's a newer construction neighborhood, we saw that from the data, people are moving out of those homes quite a bit faster, actually. So you can shrink that down to like 3 years if you want, and start hitting people that have been in that bought brand new and are maybe going to be selling now. Let's go back over to here. So, and actually, it looked like there's a couple questions. No, no questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and toss them in. But I encourage you to go and actually look at the data inside of MLS and find these little areas if you're thinking about creating a mailing list. And then getting the names and numbers is the easy part. It's making sure that you're going to be mailing to an area that has good volume of sales happening. So, startup and monthly cost. So, we're all going to be heading into the new year, and a lot of people are like, okay, I'm gonna start marketing. I'm gonna be consistent this year. Well, now's the time to start prepping. So first, you're gonna need to commit to a minimum of 6 months of mailers. If you commit longer, great, but you need to try this for at least 6 months if you're gonna do it, because if you're gonna do a one shot to a neighborhood and just don't do it after that, that's where the mailers tend to fail. That's one of the reasons is it's just there's no consistency there. Especially if you've got a really small farm and maybe there's not as many sales happening there, but you still chose it, then you're probably, the chances are going to be less that you're going to get that call, you're going to get that listing appointment in that type of neighborhood if you're only sending once. So you need to be consistent with sending these out every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks. 3 weeks would be best. If you could do, at least once a month with your budget, that would be ideal. So 6 months, one mailing each month. Um, Set a budget for how much you can spend a month on mailers for the next 6 months. And I'm talking postage, actually, not necessarily the mailers themselves. And you can do it that way, but I'm going to show you kind of a way to save money, especially on a startup. So let's say your budget's 150 bucks. I can allocate 150 bucks out of my marketing budget. Then you'll need a farm size of about 245 homes based on today's postcard stamp cost of 61 cents. Cost of stamps, here they are right here. You can see the postcard stamp is 61 cents right now. So if you have, 150 bucks to spend on postage each month, then you're looking at about 245 homes that you need to filter down into a neighborhood that have been there, 5 years or longer. And you can get better with the filters if you want, but that would be probably the least or the minimum that you would want to do as far as filtering is people that have been in their home 5 years or longer. You're going to need postcards, obviously. It's best to buy these in bulk for the best pricing. If your farm size is about 245 homes per month and you're committing to 6 months of marketing dollars towards mailers, you're going to need about 1470 mailers, postcards. You can fund 6 months of mailers for a cost of 95 bucks and order 1,500 in bulk, or buy an extra, for 7 or 8 months mailers for a touch more for 2,000 postcards at a price of 114. So essentially your startup costs for the postcards are 100 bucks if you want to do this for 6 months. So you can see this is straight off of Vistaprint. You could probably find them cheaper, but this is what the cost was, 7 cents a unit. If you're buying 1,500 of them, if you're ordering 1,500. You don't need to change the postcards up every month. You can hit them with the same thing every month if you want, as long as you have your postcard dial in, which we will cover next. So you're also going to need mailing labels for your postcards. Now, this is doing it on the cheap, cheap, cheap. If you're going to label each one of these things by yourself, then you're going to need some sticky labels to put on there with the addresses. You can upload a CSV file to Vistaprint and a lot of other printers out there, and they'll print off the addresses on there. But I don't recommend that if you're buying in bulk up front, because what happens is title changes and things like that happen. And so you'll see that your mailing list, as the months go on, is going to change just a little bit. Because ownership could change um, even though the home didn't sell, that necessarily it can go into a trust, could do different things, right? So um, I like the 5160s, the Averys, for the mailing labels. You can buy basically 6 months worth of those for like 25 bucks. You know, you can get like 3,000 of them or something like that. So now you've got your postcards for 6 months already set up. For your materials, you're in it for about 130 bucks because you bought, 1,500 postcards for 100, and you got all the labels you need for about another 25, 30 bucks. So now you're into this for a total cost of $130 startup. And then you're going to need your postage now. That's your ad budget each month for 150 bucks. So total 6 months marketing cost is going to run you about 1,030 for a very targeted mailer campaign that should net you 2 to 3 sides easy of business over the next 6 months. Um, the more turnover there is in a neighborhood and the better your postcard is, the higher return you'll get as far as listing appointments and calls. Um, so what do we do with the mailer now? So you can see how affordable this could be because now we have this data out there instead of just, old school sending out 10,000 pieces to a zip code and saying a little prayer. Now we've got some data and we're sending it out to the likely to sell homeowners in the area. Other things you can try, yes, title companies and other programs out there have likely to sell homeowner lists that you can get from them. Feel free to try those as well, but still focus on neighborhoods that have the highest turnover, at least 12 a year or more. So designing your mailer, this is the other key part. If you are sending, vanilla stuff that you're finding from the internet, hey, I'm your neighborhood realtor, or here's this month's recipe, or here's what's going on this month in the neighborhood, that kind of stuff doesn't really resonate. It's kind of a waste. I don't think you're going to get business from it, and that's why people think mailers fail. So what we want to do is pin down, um, what is their pain? What is their goal? So we want to identify that. What's our home worth? Should I sell right now? How fast can I sell? Who will market it right? You want to offer a low commitment, but a high perceived value incentive. So the free market report, not my favorite. No obligation consultation, it's still not my favorite. Guaranteed buyer lead list, like those are some that you can do. There's definitely better ones out there. 30-day, sale guarantee. That's a good one. You can do straight commission offers of, like a discounted listing. There's other things out there that are definitely a little stronger than those. Um, Present the CTA, which is the call to action, as the next logical step from that pain or goal. Make it easy, phone, scan, website, text, something like that. Your call to action should be very simple. Um, here's our offer. Here's how we're going to solve your problem. Here's how you here's the next thing to do to get the ball rolling with me on solving that problem. Add time urgency or exclusivity if possible, for only for homeowners in your area, this month's special offer, different things like that. And, start thinking about things outside the box a little bit too on what would work in your particular area. These are just to kind of get your mind going a little bit. So, and ensure the call to action visually stands out, large, bold, colored, maybe a button or box or a QR code or something like that on the postcard. Um, what do you put on the postcards to get people to call you? Again, heavy discounts, 30-day sold guaranteed, cash for home in any condition. These are pretty popular. we do have in-house buyers that are always looking for deals like this that you can just work with on a continual basis because they will be the ones that can provide the cash offer. Now, obviously, that's not always going to be an offer that a seller is willing to take because these are people that are flipping homes typically. So, but it coincides with the offer. You can produce that cash offer for them. And it also opens the door to the conversation of like, oh, we don't like that offer. Well, if we go to market, I can definitely get you a higher price. I could get you the price you want, and that's where you start leading in to further conversation. Um, and remember that, if you're just starting with this or just starting to build your database, you're new to the business, you're starting back up, any of this does not have to be your forever offer. We're talking about building business fast. So you can imagine that with that amount of mailers I was sending out early in my career, that my book of business grew very, very fast because I was selling a lot of homes. Um, I didn't, I was doing a discounted commission offer way back then, and it was popular, and other realtors didn't like it and things like that, but it didn't matter because I was the number one guy on the team, and our team was the number three team in a huge, huge brokerage. I mean, we sold a ton of homes off of this. And we got a lot of referrals and things like that. So it built the business very fast. It really only took me 2 to 3 years to really have consistent sales every month, multiple sales. And I'm not talking about one, I'm talking about multiple sales every month. So, and I built it off of basically those mailers and taking a lot of listings all the time. So, but it doesn't have to be your forever. I don't do that deal like I used to, because now, you know, I I have more value to add as an agent, and I have referral business now because I've been doing this for quite a while, and everybody will get there at some point. So some more high impact value propositions for seller mailers. Um, think about what might resonate. What do you want to build your business on? Marketing reach and presentation. This is something that a lot of sellers prioritize. Talk about, and these could be actually some of the bullet points on your mailer as well. If this isn't your main call to action or your main value proposition, this can be some kind of sub ones that you're going to be doing for them when you have your main value proposition, whatever that might be. Um, how their home's going to be viewed. The virtual open house 24/7. This is dealing with interactive floor plans and things like that that are always going to be available. 7-day launch plan. How it's going to look once you get their home on the market. The first 7 days, pricing strategy and negotiation. If you're a master at that, then maybe you want to promote that on here because there are people that, especially right now, and the word is out. The market's a little tough, right? So we're going to talk about data-driven pricing. We're not guessing what your home is. We're going to show you exactly what it's worth and how much we're going to get for you. Offer management that squeezes every dollar out, pre-listing value prep, different things like that. Um, I got a whole thing of them and I don't want to run too late. But again, if you want this, I have a lot of value propositions on here that you can build your postcard with. Buy before you sell options, sell with tenant in place, depends on what your target audience is going to be. Is it a neighborhood? Are you sending to all of the 2 to 4 units in a particular area? Maybe that's what your mailer is going to be. You want to make it, very specific and not just super broad all the time. If you're going to be hitting, probates and, you know, um, divorcees, things like that. It's all, a lot of this stuff is public record. You want to make sure that your postcard resonates with that particular audience if that is the list you are polling. Otherwise, I recommend just going like I did before, going into MLS, picking an area that you like and sending out to them. Um, Targeted scenario, yeah, tired landlords, those are good. Inherited trust probates. I mean, there's a ton of those going on. We went over the trust stuff last week. Divorce or life changes. These are all reasons people have to sell their home. So you can get these lists from title as well, these mailer lists. Just make your postcard resonate with these particular homeowners here. Um, and then have some clear and compelling mini lines on there because it's not just going to be, sell your home for whatever compensation. You're going to have some other little bullet points in there. So here's some samples you can use for that. Um, let's talk about what makes a strong call to action. This is the other part that I think is really important here with these mailers is the strong call to action. So you have the strong value proposition. I'm going to do this for you. Um, and maybe it sounds too good to be true. I like to equate this a little bit when I talk to some of you on the one-on-ones on building business and doing mailers is if you open up your mailbox today and you've got some ads in there from local businesses, what do you usually have? And it's some sort of coupon, right? Now, we don't really have coupons as realtors, but that is their value proposition. Buy one, get one free, or $2 off, or $10 off, or whatever it is that that particular business is offering. So you want to have a strong value proposition as well. And then the other thing you see on those mailers from your businesses is the call to action, which could be click this coupon and bring it in, or you know, put the app on your phone and put in this discount code or whatever. They are instructing you on how to get the deal. And that's their call to action. So you'll want to do the same thing. Is it a QR code? Is it a website? What is it that you're sending them to get the deal with you and at least open up that conversation? So key characteristics and a strong call to action, clear, action-oriented language. Use verbs like call, schedule, find out, claim. Avoid generic, vague phrasing like contact us, because recipients don't know what the next step is necessarily. So um, use a strong verb and have the call to action next to it. Call, here's the phone number. Schedule, here's a link. you know, claim, here's a link or a QR code, make it very clear. Benefit driven, what's in it for them? Because that's what's going to drive them to also want to take advantage of this offer and hopefully have you over as, for a listing consultation. So the CTA must tell the homeowner why they should act. Um, see what your home could sell for, get your home's value, uh, get your cash offer, whatever it is, should go along with whatever your value proposition is. Um, sense of urgency, it's usually pretty good. You can have this be, for the next 3 months or a summer special or a winter special or whatever you want to call it. But you can create a sense of urgency with whatever value proposition it is that you're offering them. Single focused call to action. Direct mail pieces perform better when the recipient has one clear next step rather than multiple competing actions. Um, I Sometimes I like to have multiples on there. Obviously, you're going to have your phone number. Website link is okay. People usually know what to do with QR codes these days. That's an easy way to get them from print to digital as far as getting them into your database, because if they click on a link and fill out a form, or if they scan the QR code and it takes them somewhere, there's all this tracking and stuff, and we can actually start getting their data into our database and remarketing to them. Visibility, design, prominence. It must stand out on the mailer. Contrasting color buttons, white space, easy to spot. Don't make it be too cluttery. Make it very clear what it is, what that value proposition is, and call to action. This is how you get it. Make it easy to act on. The recipient should know instantly what to do. Call, scan the QR, visit the URL. and what they're going to get when they do that. For print mailers, bridging offline and online or a direct phone number works well. I've seen mailers done in 1,000 different ways. Some people get little hotline numbers, obviously links and QR codes, all that kind of stuff. I can't say that any of it works better than any of it. Just make it clear um, on what to do next to get that offer or to connect with you. And avoid industry terms that we all use. We throw it around a lot. I am very bad about it, using acronyms and things like that, because that's just how I talk every day to you guys. So, but we want to avoid doing that. You say get a free CMA, you know, maybe it's their first time selling a home. They probably don't know what a CMA is. So call it what it is in their language. Quick creative tips for the mailer itself. Make the value proposition the headline again. Make that, bold on the top, what it is. Don't put your name up there. It's not about you. It's about the value proposition. Unless you've got, a huge name in the community, and I guess that's a little different. But if you're just getting started out or you're building into a community, then you want it to be about the call to act, the value proposition. You can support that with a single stat or proof point. Maybe you want to show them what the interactive floor plans look like if you're doing like the 24/7 open house thing. Sellers, 71% more likely to hire agents who include them. Add a simple CTA with a one-tap QR path. So don't make them go through multiple steps to get your offer, I guess, if you want to call it that. Segment by audience, again, absentee owners, inherited, long tenure homeowners. We just went over how to find the long tenure homeowners, and swap in the most relevant 2 to 3 value props from above. Add a tiny credibility panel. Recent nearby sale. So, when you get those just sold and things like that, that's reinforcement. That's proof, and I like to sprinkle those in. If you go and you buy your 6 months of postcards all at once with whatever your value proposition is, when you start listing homes and selling them in that particular farm area, you're going to want to supplement, or I would recommend supplementing a mailer when you do take a listing or make a sale in that farm area, because it's reinforcement that people are hiring you and you're producing results. You're producing a sale from it. So it just further reinforces that you're the person to work for in that area, and they keep getting your postcard every month, and look, oh, they sold this home. I recognize that home. That home's down the street from me, or that home looks like my home because it's in the same neighborhood. So all that stuff resonates really well with the homeowners when you're doing this consistently. Um, let's see, wrapping up here. Layout and placement tips on the mailer. Place the call to action in a box or banner near the bottom or right-hand side, so it's one of the last things they see. Use color that contrasts with the rest of the mailer so the button, QR, phone number jumps out at them. Make sure any phone number in the URL is simple and easy to type or call. Text keywords like, text sell now to XXX, to increase engagement. You can get those. There's plenty of programs out there where you can get the text numbers over to a certain number. I used to do that a lot. It actually works really well. I like those. Include a small deadline for booking limited if you're doing an urgency mailer. On the mailer's front face, which is the first thing they see, hint at the CTA, such as, what is your home worth? Free report inside. So they're primed before they flip or open. And then compliance check. Avoid misleading guarantees. We just want to do this in our business regardless. About price or timeline. Clearly disclose conditions for any performance promise. If you're doing a 1% listing program, you don't have to have the whole listing program rules on the postcard, but you do want to have it readily available. So maybe you're landing them on a website that explains how it goes with some sort of booking or something like that. But you want to have everything spelled out well if you're going to be starting up some sort of like kind of unique program. Um, that would include, cancel anytime terms or concierge repayment terms. Um, maybe you're saying, hey, I'm going to help you get this whole home staged. You're going to pay for the staging, but once it sells, I'm going to reimburse you at close of escrow. Well, you need to express terms on that. How does that work? If you're going to be getting some sort of reimbursement of these upfront costs that they're going to be getting for staging and different things. Um, and then review every postcard against the DRE advertising guidelines. I didn't print them. They have basically a handbook for this. If you click that, it'll take you directly over to the handbook. It's pretty handy. A lot of good info in there, and it'll answer a ton of your questions about just being compliant with your marketing in general, not just with mailers. The rules are pretty uniform across the board, but um, yeah, check that out before you mail. I'm happy to look at your postcards or whatever you want to do if you want to start with this, or if you want to schedule one-on-one to kind of go over things. But it works. It's just a matter of doing it right, selecting your proper audience, and being consistent. Consistency beats perfection all the time. So your mailer might not be perfect. I could tell you that the flyer that I used to send out was atrocious. It was black and white. I made it on Word. Like it was just a horrible, horrible looking mailer. And for some reason, it just worked. And that reason is because I had a very strong value proposition, which was list your home for, this particular commission. So that's what really resonated with the people on that campaign that I was doing. So um, yeah, if you have any questions, give me a call. Hopefully, you'll give this a try. If you're not doing anything right now, if you have $100 to spend on marketing or $150, that would be a little more ideal. Again, that's about your postage for about 245 mailers going out, very targeted every single month. So, and you will get business off it if you choose your farm area carefully and you design your postcard correctly. So, and yeah, hopefully you learned a little something, and maybe you'll give it a try. I'm a fan of mailers still, so that's how I built my whole business. I've done them recently as well, just to kind of test them out, and they still work as long as you have these components in here that I spelled out today. So, check for any Q&As real quick. So, is a postcard campaign mainly designed to generate home listings, or can it be effective for attracting home buyers? You can do home buyers. I mean, I always used it for listings personally. Um, if you want to attract buyers, I mean, I guess you're going to be looking at, maybe apartments or something like that. I mean, um, I guess maybe you can do current resident of, a home that, has an absentee owner. So you would have to go into tax records essentially and find all the homes that appear to be rentals and mail to them. So I guess it could be done. Um, I've never tried it for buyers personally. I've only ever done listings with it. So that's what I think is really the most effective. But I would think that it would work for buyers or sellers if you really tried. So, um, all right. So if there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the day. Hope you have a great week, and give me a call if you need anything. Thanks for attending, and we'll be back next week. I believe we're going to have Realtor.com on next week to go over some of the new stuff they have. So if you haven't looked at Realtor.com, maybe you want to market for some buyers, and they do have some ways to um, market for sellers these days and get seller leads. They are one of the better lead providers if you're going to be paying somebody for leads. Realtor.com is, one of the better ones out there, probably but better than Zillow in my opinion. Um, so I think we'll have them on next week. She's confirming with me, and she's going to go over a few of the programs. There's some of it that's really not very expensive at all. that you may want to take a look at and add into your business, immediately or, for 2026 if you're setting a budget for yourself. So, um, all right, sounds good. I don't think we have any other questions. So, yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day.